Welcome to the Wynn Show, where everybody comes to win. Welcome to this episode of the Wynn Show, where everybody comes to win. Today in the studio, we have with us Mark Burlinson, and we are super excited. Don't say anything yet. You're going to love his accent. I just got to let y'all know that up front. So Mark is a business owner. You have a leadership development company. And so I want you to tell us a little bit about what you do, right? And then we'll take it from there. So let them know what you do first.
Sure. I'm a leadership coach. You can tell from my accent, I ain't from around here.
Don't you love it?
People like what I say because they think I know what I'm talking about, which is good.
Yeah. And most times he does. I'm just going to tell you.
Yeah, most of the time I do. So I help business owners, mostly small business owners, because I care about them the most. Big guys have got resources, the little guys don't. Yeah. And I'm really trying to be a resource for the little guy, to understand themselves, because you can't do what you're supposed to do until you understand yourself. And then also love to help people work with their teams. A number of teams I've worked with who've really seen a difference just by understanding how they're wired differently, how they experience each other differently, learning how to work together. Can really make the teamwork work, and I love that. It's a real sense of satisfaction when you see a team improve because they understand each other better.
And that's really your specialty, is getting people to understand themselves and others, how they really work together. And it's more than just communication, isn't it? Because we could communicate all day.
Well, yeah, but if you
and never connect with each other,
exactly.
Right? So
if you're not careful, you're not communicating in a way that people can receive it. That's the key.
Yeah.
So really, if I can help people understand, and I've done so many of these kind of understand yourself things through, I mean, I've been a leader for years myself, and I've done so many of these things and got so frustrated with being put in a box. You know how sometimes you just end up, well, there's my results, and now how does that help me relate to you because you're different?
Yeah.
And so what I love about what I do now is I really help people to understand each other in a way that's so simple I can understand it. And so hopefully they can understand it too.
Absolutely. Well, and obviously the proof's in the pudding. You have the results as you see teams are coming together when they understand each other.
They're like, oh, wow, yeah. I was working with a few folks just the other day, and they were saying, oh, this is so-and-so. Or, oh, that's how they work. And you could see the lights coming on. And that's just, you know you're going to have fruit from that.
Yeah.
From people understanding themselves and each other.
Yeah.
I love it.
So what brought you to this point? Here you are as a business owner. Obviously, you ain't from around here. How'd you get here and start a business? And the short story, because we don't need everything, right? But the kind of, that's interesting. Give us that part.
Sure enough. Well, originally I'm from England. That's where the accent comes from. So I brought that with me. I've had to modify it to be understood in the South. But I had a little bit of an on-ramp to that. We were actually almost 5 years in Toronto in Canada before we moved here.
Okay.
Then moved down here, I guess it's going on just over 17 years ago now, to join a leadership ministry. So it was a Christian ministry that worked with Christian leaders and helped them to be better.
Okay.
Help them to grow, help them to lead better. Loved that whole time and was very successful in that. Then a whole series of circumstances that are too long to go into, but that came to its natural end, as things do.
Yeah, absolutely.
Then worked as a pastor for a number of years and learned a great deal through all of that. And then about 3 years ago now, had the door open to be able to start a leadership coaching business where I could actually pass on a lot of the lessons I'd learned in the heat of the battle. And to be fair, none of us is perfect.
Wait a minute, hold on. We're not?
No,
not even me.
Not even you.
Dang it.
Not even you. And so I learned a lot from interacting as an imperfect person with other imperfect people, which is really what church is all about.
Right.
And I'd learned a great deal from that.
Hope that it would be.
Well, that's what we see is the goal. Unfortunately, you don't see it too often, but I like to help people by admitting myself that I'm nowhere near perfect and I've got a lot to learn still. I'm still learning the stuff that I teach other people.
Okay.
I'll tell you a funny story later on that.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. We're always up for
But
that.
helping people to recognize that they don't have it all together, but that by working together, we can actually help each other grow.
Together. Oh, I like that. Yeah. No one of us has it all, but together we can come up with something pretty dang good.
I like to say to people, you can't see what you can't see. And isolation leads to mediocrity.
Ooh. I think Mark's throwing out some nuggets, y'all. We need to pay attention to that. Isolation leads to mediocrity.
And I don't want to be mediocre. I want to be the best I can be.
Absolutely.
So I'm constantly looking for people like you who I can pull around me, and I can learn from you, and where we can learn from one another.
Yeah.
That's what it's all about.
Absolutely, yes.
Make each other successful.
Yeah. None of this competition, yucky yuck stuff. It's all about how do we complement each other? How do we create together a wonderful thing?
Well, because you're not competing with me, you're different from me.
Yeah, yeah.
We may end up working in similar fields at different points, but we're not competing because you're different. What you bring to people is so different from what I bring to people.
Yeah, yeah. We're both awesome, too.
We
Did y'all
are.
get that?
We're both amazing.
I love it. So let me ask you, Mark, because you inspire people. I mean, you've inspired
so.
me,
Good.
definitely. And, from way back when we first met, I was like, wow, that's somebody I want to be around, right? I wanted to be, get a piece of this, right? So, but who in your life, if you look back, is there somebody that you think, this person really instilled certain things in me or really inspired me? Or who is it? You're smiling big. Who is that person?
I mean, there are too many to list, but there's two people that really stand out to me. Well, there's three. Stand out to me just in immediate thought. Way back when before I even got married, before I met my wife, I was I guess I was probably in my early 20s. Okay. Met a couple called Roger and Sue Mitchell, who were church leaders in the UK. And were not afraid to think outside the box. Oh. And so they kind of took me under their wing, even though I didn't fit any of what they thought they were looking for training. Got me into training for ministry originally, and then for leadership. And their example has been an inspiration to me all the way along. Never settling for what everybody else thinks is the status quo, but always thinking things through, always reaching their own conclusions, but always with the goal of helping other people.
Wow.
And that really has inspired me from 35, 40 years ago. Yeah. Gosh, I'm dating myself. I'm younger than I look. No, I'm older than I look.
Yeah, I was going to say, I think that's backwards.
The other person I would mention would be a gentleman called John Arnott, who was the leader of the church in Toronto that we served in for 4.5 years. And I call it the Arnott School of Leadership. John loved to find deep ends and push you in them so you could find out you could swim.
Okay.
Because he actually believed that I had more in me than I believed.
That's important.
And to have someone who believes in you and who can call out of you the good that's in you is just so huge. And again, I want to be like John when I grow up. Yeah. I want to call the good out of other people, and that's why I do what I do now. So those folks really inspire me. I've had lots of other leaders along the way. That's why I focus on leaders. I see how important the influence leaders have is. Yes. And I've been a poor influence in my own leadership, and hopefully some of the time I've been a good influence.
Oh,
and I want to bring out the good. Well, yeah, no, but it's good to be real as well.
Yeah.
You know, there's no perfect leaders. Even the ones I've just talked about as inspirations to me would be the first to admit they're not perfect. Yeah. And that really is a key to the strength of their influence, that they're real, that they're not putting on a face, they're not putting on a mask, they're not pretending to be 6 feet above everybody else. Yeah. They're actually down on the same level as the rest of us, but influencing with their integrity, with their reality, and with their faith as well in other people.
So you're bringing out several things, or you've mentioned several things that I kind of want to extract out in case people are missing some of this, right?
Sure.
So there are always breadcrumbs that lead, everybody looks back and says, well, there was somebody who inspired me to do X, Y, and Z, or there was somebody who impacted my life. And so you are a man of impact, but you look back and you can see those people in your life. So our viewers, we want to be sure that in their own lives, they recognize that they're doing it and look back for who has impacted them.
Totally.
Okay, so important. And then the other piece I think that was really important as you talked about John Arnott. Did I say it right, or is it
Yes.
Arnott? Arnott. Okay, Arnott. The realism and just being you,
Yeah.
even and yet man of great influence, impact.
Totally.
And what were those characteristics? The first one you said was integrity.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah.
John knows who he is, and he's totally secure in who he is, and he doesn't want anybody else to be like him. He wants everybody else to be who they're meant to be.
Yeah.
So that really has been my inspiration in what I do. I don't want anybody to be like me. That wouldn't be
boring.
That would be terrible.
I mean, not that you're boring, but
No,
nobody should be like me either, because then that'd be
Absolutely.
boring.
Yeah. But when you're secure in who you are, and you don't feel competition with other people because you know this is who you're meant to be, then you can help other people be the best person they're meant to be.
Yes. Y'all, that is gold right there. I want you to be really listening into that one. When you know that you are who you're supposed to be, there is no competition, and you can help bring out what others are supposed to be as well. Which I can see. I mean, I don't even know John, but I'm just like, from how you just described him, he has fingerprints all over the work that you do in bringing out the best in other people. And kicking a few into the deep end, if you don't mind me saying. To teach him to swim, right?
Yeah, well, we all need that sometimes, don't we? I mean,
Absolutely.
I've grown so much from the times that he believed I could do something that I didn't believe I could do, and then I found out I could.
Yeah. Standing on the faith of others is the way to make this thing happen.
Absolutely, yes.
Super. Well, when we come back, we're going to take a short break, and when we come back, we're going to ask Mark about a time where maybe you weren't so gung-ho. Maybe there was a little impossibility in front of him, and how did he overcome that? We'll be right back with Mark Burlinson. Welcome back to the Wynn Show. We are talking with Mark Burlinson in studio here, and we're going to put Mark on the spot a little bit. As encouraging as you are to others and as much good that you bring out of others, and we've already said there are a lot of people have poured into your life, okay?
Right.
It all sounds amazing, but the folks who are watching, what they really want to know is, when were you up against it? When did it feel impossible? And how'd you move past it?
Okay, how long have you got?
The short version.
Let's pick one. Let's pick one, and make sure we don't disclose too many details to push anybody under any buses. Because let me preface this by saying I'm very grateful to have gone through this impossible that I came through, and so sometimes when you're facing an impossible, it feels like the people in that impossible are the problem. And they're the cause, and actually they are the benefit to you of working through that impossible. So I was in a situation for quite some time where I was, let's call it the second chair leader. You're not the main leader of the thing, but you're part of the leadership team.
Okay.
And the leader I was seeking to serve and seeking to support didn't really have a clear feel for where the organization was going or what they wanted. In fact, if anything, that seemed to keep changing. And I'm wired for planning, and I'm wired for encouraging and enthusing other people. That's who I am. I can come up with not just one plan, I can come up with 3 plans if you need 3 plans, just in case the first plan doesn't work, right?
Okay.
And so I was in a situation where I couldn't see, short of actually undermining this other leader that I was responsible to, I couldn't see how I could plan or how I could encourage, because where we were aiming for was like a target in the fog. And every time the wind blew, it moved.
Oh, wow.
And so anything that I would strategize, anything, and so I literally did for a long time feel like, you know what, this is an impossible situation. However, I knew I was in the right place because I could point to how I'd got there.
Okay.
Now, I'm a man of
Super
faith,
important.
obviously.
Yeah.
I've been a pastor, so I believe God put me in that situation. And I wasn't about to run away from that impossible situation. There's probably another key for the viewers, because I didn't want to miss out on what was in this for me to learn. And so I stuck it. I kept going. I did the best I could.
Okay.
And I gathered others around me who could help me not get the wrong attitude.
That's
so
important.
that for me was crucial.
Okay.
Sometimes, and I went to counseling in this time. You know, I'm not afraid to admit it.
Been there, done that.
Hello,
Many a time.
Go to counseling.
Yeah.
And I got a coach
Yeah.
as well.
Yeah.
Now, okay, I realize
yeah.
I sound like I'm tooting my own horn here. Get somebody like me,
Yeah.
because you've got to have other people who are not in the thick of your impossibility to speak to you.
Yes.
And sometimes they would point out things that I needed to change.
Okay.
And usually I was at least eventually willing to change.
Maybe not the first adapter, but in there eventually.
I mean, I can do stubborn as well.
Okay.
But sometimes they would point out, and I remember one thing my counselor said to me, most of what you're facing is actually the other leader and their issues. And you have to make a choice, because you won't be able to change their issues. You won't be able to change that person. And if you believe that they're doing the best they can with what they've got, you have to choose. Are you supposed to be here or not?
Yeah.
And at that point, I didn't have any sight that I was supposed to be anywhere else. I didn't have any sense that I was supposed to be anywhere else. So I stuck in it. I stuck, and I did my best with what I did have.
Okay.
Until, having then completed that process of submission, effectively, of seeking to make somebody else successful, at the end of that time I had a sense, and I believe it was from God, but your heart will tell you, even if you're not a person of faith, your heart will tell you, now you're done. Now you've completed what it is you're supposed to complete. And so when I reached, and that took 4 years, just to be real here. Okay,
Yeah.
4 years in a feeling of, I don't see where this is going, I don't see any future in this, I don't see anything. And I could have just gone, I'm out.
Right.
But I don't know what I would have done if I'd just cut and run like that, because I wouldn't have learned the lessons that I learned by pushing through, in faith, yes, but also in a desire to make sure I learned all that I could out of that circumstance and out of that situation.
Because sometimes if we cut and run,
You miss out.
we miss that lesson.
Totally.
But it's been my experience, unfortunately, that God brings that lesson back.
Oh, you'll
He's
circle
gonna keep
around the
bringing
mountain.
it until you learn that thing. So good on you
if
for
you read
staying
the Bible,
to get
there's
it
all these
all.
people going around the desert, you know.
Yes.
And if you don't like the desert, well, don't run away from the desert. Wait until he leads you through it.
Yeah, through will
'Cause
be so
otherwise-
much faster than circling, isn't it?
I mean, because there are things that we can only learn by going through them.
Yeah.
And so some of what I do now is actually help people to stick to what they're doing, even though they hate it, or they feel like they're squeezed, or they feel like it's impossible. And I
Right.
love what you're doing with that whole impossible, I'm possible thing.
Thanks.
But that is, to stick with it is so vital to get to the other side, to learn what you need to learn from it. Now Jane and I look back, and we couldn't be who we are today if we hadn't gone through that season. God has done stuff in us, and we've learned stuff about ourselves, and we're very, very grateful. That's why I'm being very sort of vague about the precise details, because this wasn't the first time this had happened. That's another thing that maybe I should say. I'd been in previous situations where I could identify the faults in me that needed to be exposed by the impossible situation. So the conflict I had with the boss back in England before we ever went to Toronto actually led to us moving to Toronto. I wouldn't ever have worked in that big church doing all the things that I did and getting that mentor, that wonderful mentor from John, if I hadn't been a jerk, basically, in my previous job.
Hey, we own it, right?
You know, you can be a jerk and you can still end up being a success if you work your way through the wilderness. You know, and so this circumstance that I'm talking about now wasn't the first time, and that's what alerted me. I see a pattern here.
Patterns are important.
Exactly.
When we see those, we gotta.
But once I got to this pattern again, and actually it was the third obvious time in my life that I'd been in a similar situation. Now I'm determined to make sure I get other people speaking into me, so I don't miss any of what I need to learn.
Yeah, and the learn, as you said, was about you.
Yeah.
It's your learn,
Absolutely.
not the other person.
It's not to do with the other person.
Personal responsibility.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's what really moves us.
Yeah.
Yeah, when
totally.
we take that personal responsibility.
It has to be personal responsibility.
Yeah.
And also the courage to let somebody else be what they are.
Yeah, that's
Because
good.
too many of us, we try and change the person that's causing our issue, or the person who's feeding our struggle, or whatever it may be. But actually just let them be. Give them the freedom, give them the gift of, you are who you are.
You.
I choose to believe you're doing the best you can with what you've got, and I'm going to learn all that I can out of this.
So I'm hearing so many things in there: the personal responsibility, the power of choice.
Totally.
Right? Because the one thing that makes us different than all the other animals and plants on the earth is that we were gifted by God with the ability to think and to choose, to make the choice.
Yeah.
And that is simply a choice.
Yeah.
I'm going to allow you to be you. And the other choice you said, which I loved, was, and I'm choosing to believe you're doing the best that you know how.
Yeah.
I mean, that changes everything. That's
Absolutely.
huge, Mark.
Yeah.
That's not like the
Because we
fly
go
by
through
night
life
stuff.
so easily going, it's all you.
Yeah, exactly.
And then we lose out on what we could gain from facing our own stuff.
Yeah, those are big. Those are really big. So having people speak into you, stopping to learn the lesson, sticking through till you get it all.
Yeah,
That's the three kind of nuggets to take away from this, right? This is how we move past the impossible.
Yes.
Get the people speaking in, be responsible, stick it through.
Yeah.
Right? And allow the other person.
And then you'll get to enjoy getting to the other side.
And the other
Which is
side's
awesome.
Yeah. Pinch poke, owe me a Coke. Do you
there
know
you go.
that? Have you been in America long enough?
I've been here long enough
Is
to know
30
that
years
one.
long enough? No. Oh, gosh. Okay, we're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, we're going to put Mark on the spot, okay, because I love to put people on the spot. And what we're going to do is we're going to allow him to give you his best promo for his business. So that shouldn't really be hard, right? Because you're all about this. And then also, we want to wrap our time together with having Mark speak inspiration into your life, because let me tell you, he knows how to do it. So come right back. We'll see you in just a minute. Welcome back to the Wynn Show. I am in studio with Mark Burlinson, and we are putting you on the spot, as we promised. Want to let you look straight into the camera and say, this is what Mark Burlinson Leadership Coaching is all about and why you should be part of it, or how I can serve you. So we'll let you do that, and then we'll wrap up with the final words of inspiration from a friend, a man of God, a leader in his community, someone who I trust and just think the world of. So
thank you.
Give him the promo first.
All right, I'll do that. You can't be who you're meant to be unless you understand yourself. And you can't relate to other people unless you understand them. The trouble is most of us struggle to understand and get past the differences that we all have. I want you to know that your differences are strengths between you and others, those you work with, those you're married to or you're in a family with, those you're neighbors with. And I can help you understand yourself as well as those around you. In a very simple, low pressure kind of way, you can gain revelation about who you are, affirmation for how you're wired, and the sense of belonging to this world in your own uniqueness in a way that gives you confidence to work or to relate to other people.
I love that. The last way, the way that gives you confidence to relate to people in your
all need
uniqueness.
that.
That's awesome. Do you use that on your website and tagline? You
I
need
will.
to.
I will.
That is phenomenal because it is exactly what you do.
It is.
Wow, wait.
I mean, I say to so many people, we need you to be you.
Yeah.
I don't want to give a game away on what I'm going to say that's inspiring, but we need you to be you.
You do. But I just love the way you phrased that. It was so warm. And I'm like, well, let me. I'll call. Let's get off camera so I can get in with Mark's coaching here. So now give it to them. Like, give us your best inspiration. So our viewers, they watch because they want to be inspired by you. They connect with you, obviously. You know that, right?
Yeah.
They connect and they say, well, if Mark can, I can too. And you've shared a lot that you have learned, done, and now I want to give you the chance to really just feed us for a moment.
A moment.
Okay?
Okay.
Yeah. I have to tell a moment to
Yes.
a guy who is a pastor, right?
If you've got a
Because we're not
preacher in
waiting
your chair,
for.
you, don't, you want to give him a limit.
Got to put the limits on, absolutely. But I also know that means we're getting good inspiration today. So give it to us.
Excellent. Yeah, I'd be glad to. Each of you is unique. There's nobody else like you. Your fingerprints are unique. The way you're wired is unique. What you have to offer to this world and to those around you is unique. And I want to encourage you that we need you to be you. We want you to be you. And the more you can do to understand who you are and what you have to offer, the closer you can get to people like Wynn and me, who actually know who we are and why we're here. And then you make a huge difference in the world around you, in the work you do, in the community you serve, wherever it may be. You will be able to be far more fruitful by understanding yourself and owning your uniqueness. It doesn't make you better than everybody else, it just makes you different from everybody else. And we need you to be different because we need what you bring to our community here on the beach.
Yeah, that's great. I love it. I knew we were going to win when we had Mark in the chair. This is where everybody comes to win. So,
Absolutely. Yep. It's great.
Wow. Mark, thank you so much for being here. We really do appreciate it and appreciate that you would share so openly your story with us. And I think that's your authenticity, way overused, but it's the truth. You're just genuine, I'm Mark being me, like ready to help you be you is what makes you so successful in your coaching business as well, and with the teams that you work with and really bringing them together to get results for people. So, and it's in a way that's not painful.
Absolutely. Let's just take the masks off. It doesn't hurt in the end.
Yeah. That's BS. Yeah. So we hope that this episode of the Wynn Show has been an inspiration to you to really step into your unique self. As Mark would say, we need you to be you.
Yeah.
Don't try to be anybody else, just be you, because that's what we need. If this story, if Learning with Mark, has inspired you, we want you to leave us a comment and let us know that, because here's the thing, your comments will then inspire others to take a step to make a difference in their communities as well. So we thank you for being a part of this episode of the Wynn Show. We thank Mark for being here with us and giving us the good word, and we will see you on another episode real soon. Thank you for watching this episode of The Wynn Show. This is Wynn, and I'm inviting you to discover what's possible in your life by joining me in the I'm Possible Discovery program. You can find all the details at bsharp.us/join.